We continue now at the top of Daf Gimel Amud Beis in Meseches Yoma. This is Yoma Daf 3b. And the previous Amud, the Gemara had said that the reason why we learn out from the Miluim that specifically on Yom Kippur the Kohen Gadol needs to separate for 7 days before Yom Kippur is because the Miluim and Yom Kippur are similar in that the Karbanos are brought from the personal property of the Kohen Gadol. So the Gemara says that's very good according to the one who says that Kach Lecha means you bring from your own property. V'asei lecha mishal lecha. And similarly, anytime the Torah says V'asei lecha, like when it says Asei lecha shtei chatzotzros, it means from your own property. Elalamando amar mishal tzibur. But what about according to the one who says that that kind of language that the Torah uses actually simply means the public funds? So Ma'ikal Meimer, then what are you going to say? Then you don't have this idea that Yom Kippur and the Miluim are unique, that it's personal funds, because that's not what the Pesukim mean according to that Manda Amar. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braisa, Kach lecha mishal lecha, v'asei lecha mishal lecha. Anytime the Torah says Kach lecha or Asei lecha, it means bring from your own property. V'yikchu eilecha, and when the Torah says the language of V'yikchu eilecha, mishal tzibur, that means that it's from the public funds. Divrei Rabbi Yoshia, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yoshia. So again, according to Rabbi Yoshia, what we said in the previous Amud works. Rabbi Yonasan says, Bein kach lecha, bein vayikchu lecha, mishal tzibur. It doesn't matter what the language is, kach lecha, vayikchu lecha, it always means from the public funds. Umatam and lomar kach lecha, why does the Torah use the language of kach lecha? Why not always say the same language in the plural? So for that, the Gemara explains, Rabbi Yonasan explains, Kiviyachol mishalcha ani rotze yoser mishalahem. It's like God is saying, I want from you more than them. Of course, this should be brought from the public funds, but I desire it from you. And Rashi over here says, what's this language of Kaviyachol? Ani shamati, Rashi says, I heard the pshat, Im hayat tzibur yachol eskaper, b'shal yachid hayisi rotze. It's like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, if it's possible for the tzibur to get a kapara through a carbon from an individual, I would prefer that. V'ani Omer, Rashi says, I say my personal opinion, Lefisha davar kashu lomar shakadosh Baruch Hu cuts b'Yisrael. It's very difficult to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is angry at Klal Yisrael, that they need a kapara. So Omer kiviyachol, that's why it says the language of kiviyachol. Kilomar al karchenu, meaning like we're forced to have this kapara. Yomar kain ki'ilu efsher lomar kain v'chein kol kiviyachol shebashas. Rashi says that's what kaviyachol always means. But in any case, whatever kaviyachol means, the point is, it says lecha because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I want it from you, if it could be from you, more than it should be from the public funds. Abba Chanan Omer, Mishum Rebbe Lazar, this is the Braisa continuing. Abba Chanan says in the name of Rebbe Lazar, Kasav Echad Omer v'asisa lecha aronates. There's one pasuk that says, make for yourself the aron. V'chasav Echad Omer v'asu aron atzei shitim. There's another pasuk that says, they will make it, like in plural. So how do we understand this? How so? Kan bizman she Yisrael osin ritzon shel makom. If Klal Yisrael is doing the ratzon hamakom, so then it's considered theirs. It's considered public. We use the plural. Kan bizman shein osin ritzon shel makom, and it uses the singular when Klal Yisrael is not doing the ratzon hamakom. And in this opinion as well, in Abba Chanan's opinion as well, kach lecha does not necessarily mean from your personal property. So again, what are we going to do according to Rabbi Yonasan? What are we going to do according to Abba Chanan in the name of Rebbe Lazar? So the Gemara answers, Ad kan lo pligela pikichas di alma v'asiyas di alma. This whole machlokas here in this brisa that we're bringing is in general if it says kach lecha somewhere or asei lecha somewhere. Kichas di alma, where's an example of just a random place where it says kach lecha, it says kach lecha samim. It says take for yourself the samim. And asiyos di alma, where's an example where it says asiyos, asei lecha shtei chatzotzros kesef. Make for yourself these 2 silver trumpets. Avol Hanoch, but when it comes to these cases that we're talking about, meaning the Miluim and Yom Kippur, Perushe Kamefaresh to Mishal Chohu. The pasuk is explicit that it should come from you. The Miluim, let's take a look at the Miluim. Michti Ksiv, let us see. It says, V'al B'nei Yisrael Tadaver Leimor Kechu Sirizim Lechatos. It says to B'nei Yisrael, you say in the plural, take a Sirizim. Vayomer al Aaron, and then he says to Aaron, again this is by the Yemei Miluim, by the 8th day, Kach lecha egel ben bakar lechatos lamali. What do you need that language of Kach lecha egel, a different language all of the sudden? It says kechusi irizim in the beginning, and then it says Kach lecha, that changes the language. Shma mino Kach lecha mishalachahu. You see clearly by the Miluim that Kach lecha meant from your personal property. And Yoma Kippurim, what about by Yoma Kippurim? Michti, let us see. Ksiv, it already says in the pasuk, Bezos Yavo Aaron al Kodesh bepar ben bakar lechatos v'gomer. It says Aaron should come with a par. Ume'ei sadas b'nei Yisrael yikach shnei sirei izim lechatos. And then it says, from Klal Yisrael take two sirei izim for a chatos. And then v'hikrev as par hachatos asher lo lamali. So what do you need it to say? Again, he should bring the par hachatos asher lo. So Shema Mina, you see from this, Hai Lo Mishalohu. That word lo means it should be from his own property. So again, you see by both Yom Kippur and by the Yom Shmini Lemiluim, it's clear that it's from Aaron's own property, and therefore we learn one to the other. Just like you need a separation of 7 days by the Yemei Miluim, so too you need a separation of 7 days when it comes to Yom Kippur. Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi has a different answer why we learn out from the Miluim to Yom Kippur and not Rosh Hashanah and Shavuos. Don in par lechatos v'yai liola mi par lechatos v'yai liola. By both the Miluim and Yom Kippur, the par is brought as a carbon chatos, the ayil is brought as a carbon ola, so we learn one to the other. Le'afuge Rosh Hashanah v'yatzeres, the tarvayu olos. Ninu, this comes to exclude Rosh Hashanah and Shavuos. Over there, both of them are brought as carbon ola, so you don't learn to those particular holidays. Ravina says a different answer. Don in avoda b'kohen gadol me avoda b'kohen gadol. We learn from the Miluim to Yom Kippur because on the 8th day of the Miluim, the Kohen Gadol served, and we're learning to Yom Kippur when the Kohen Gadol does the avoda. Le'afuke kulu kushyasan. This excludes all of the previous holidays that we asked as questions before. The lav avoda b'kohen gadol ninu. Those are not talking about avoda by the Kohen Gadol. As we've mentioned, there were mishmaros and there were rotations of who served. It didn't necessarily have to be the Kohen Gadol. So therefore, you don't learn from a Kohen Gadol case to a non-Kohen Gadol case. Vika di'amri, some people have a different version of Ravina's answer. Amar Ravina says, Donin avoda tchila me avoda tchila. We learn from a first avoda to another first avoda. La'afuke hani de lav tchila ninu. To exclude the other holidays, it's not a first. Now, what do we mean it's a first? My tchila. What does that mean that Miluim and Yom Kippur is a first? Ileimo tchila b'kohen gadol. Now, if you're going to say tchila means a reference to the fact that the Kohen Gadol is the one that does the avoda, so hainu kamaisa, that's exactly what he said in the first version. That would be the same exact version using different language. Elo avoda tchila b'makom me avoda tchila b'makom. What we mean is, it's the first time you do avoda in that location, meaning in the days of the Miluim, and it's the first time you do the avoda in the Kodesh Kadashim on Yom Kippur. Rashi over here says, first of all, ileimo tchila b'kohen gadol. If you're going to say the word tchila means kohen gadol, meaning don in Yom HaKippurim shi avoda rishona shehutla b'kohen gadol b'karbanos tzibor b'yom HaKippurim harishon. And the first Yom Kippur, that was the first time the kohen gadol did the avoda with karbanos tzibor. Me avoda shmini l'miluim, and that's similar by the 8th day of the Miluim. She avoda rishona shenasas al yedei kohen gadol me'om. That was the first time the kohen gadol ever did an avoda. That's because in the first 7 days of the Miluim, it was actually Moshe Rabbeinu that did the avoda. It wasn't Aaron. So then the Gemara says, no, it doesn't mean that. Rather, it means tchila b'makom. It means the first time it's in this place. Yom HaKippurim yesh lo avoda lifnai v'lifnim. On Yom Kippur, you do the avoda in the Kodesh Kadashim. Shav Yom HaKippurim harishon haisa tchila b'makom shekodem lachein lo nichnas adam sham la'avoda. The avoda, that first Yom Kippur, was in a place where nobody had ever entered to do the avoda. V'yom shmini l'miluim haisa avoda tchila b'mizbeach hachitzon. Similarly, on the 8th day of the Miluim, that was the first time they ever did the avoda in the outer mizbeach. Now maybe you'll say, what are you talking about? The first 7 days of the Miluim, Moshe Rabbeinu did avodah on the Mizbech, so it wasn't the first time. So ein kruya avoda etzel avodas kohanim. You don't call what Moshe did in avoda when relative to what the kohanim do. The kohanim, that's called avoda. You don't call Moshe Rabbeinu by the same term. Shehu b'levush big day kahuna, v'shal Moshe b'cholak lavan. The kohanim serve in the garment of the big day kahuna. Moshe served in the cholak lavan, in the white garment. Shelo hochsher el l'shah, that was only used for that one particular time. So you can't compare the avoda that Moshe Rabbeinu did to the avoda that's done by the kohanim. And the Gemara continues, Ki asa Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yochanan masni chada. When Rav Dimi came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that there was only one. We only learn one thing. And Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi masni tarti. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said you learn two things. Meaning, we're learning out from the Miluim for sure. There's no question. We're learning out that by Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol needs to do a separation of 7 days before Yom Kippur. The question over here is, do you also learn a second thing? Do you also learn to the case of the Parah Aduma that you need a 7-day separation? So when Rav Dimi came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, you only learn the halacha for Yom Kippur. It's not true by Parah Aduma. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said you learn by both Yom Kippur and Parah Aduma. Rabbi Yochanan masni chada. Rabbi Yochanan only learns one, meaning lasos lechaper elu ma'aseh Yom Kippurim. When the pasuk says lasos lechaper, it refers to Yom Kippur. You need a separation like by the Miluim. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi masni tarti. Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi learns two things: lasos elu ma'aseh para, lechaper elu ma'aseh Yom Kippurim. Lasos means the ma'aseh Parah Aduma. Lechaper means Yom Kippurim, as we said earlier on the first daf of the Masechet. And we'll just note a small girsa change by the Mesoras Hashas. He changes Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi both over here and over here to Reish Lakish. So either again it's the Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, or it's the Machlokas Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. So now the Gemara asks on Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan Masni Chada says Rabbi Yochanan only taught by one case, only by Yom Kippur you need to separate, not by the Parah Aduma. So the Gemara says, V'anon tanan, but didn't we learn in the Mishnah? Shivas yamim kodem Yom Kippurim, v'shivas yamim kodem Sreifas HaParah. It says 7 days before Yom Kippur you separate, and it also says 7 days before you burn the Parah Aduma. So it's clear in the Mishnah against Rabbi Yochanan. So the Gemara says, Maila B'Alma, that's just a chumrah. It's just an extra thing to do by the Sreifas HaParah, but you don't really need to do it according to Rabbi Yochanan. Gemara asks further, V'hamar Rabbi Menyume Bar Chilki Amar Machsia Baridi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Didn't Rabbi Menyume Bar Chilki say in the name of Rabbi Machsia Baridi in the name of the same Rabbi Yochanan? Kasher Osa V'yom Hazeh Tziva Hashem Lasos L'chaper Aleichem Lasos Elo Ma'aseh Parah L'chaper Elo Ma'aseh Yom Kippurim. Makes the exact drush we made earlier. Rabbi Yochanan says, it says in the pasuk Kasher Osa by the Miluim, and we learn out from the word Lasos to the Parah Aduma. We learn out from the word L'chaper to Yom Kippurim that you need a 7-day separation by both. So to that, the Gemara answers, Ahu de Rabbe. That statement of Rabbi Yochanan was not his own statement. That was made in the name of his Rebbe. The Chiyasi Ravin Am Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Yishmael. Because when Ravin came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, in the name of Rabbi Yishmael, Lasos Elu Ma'aseh Parah. The word Lasos refers to the Ma'aseh Parah Aduma. L'chaper Elu Ma'aseh Yom Kippurim. And the word L'chaper refers to the Ma'aseh of the Yom Kippurim. So that's really Rabbi Yishmael's opinion. It's not really Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. And so the Gemara now continues, Amar Le Reish Lakish Le Rabbi Yochanan. Reish Lakish says to Rabbi Yochanan the following. Where are you learning out this halacha by Yom Kippur that you need to separate? Mimiluim, you're learning it out from the Miluim. Ima Miluim kalakasu behen ma'akev. And the problem is like this. By the Miluim, everything that's written by the Miluim is ma'akev. You must do it. So av hachanami kalakasu behen ma'akev behen. Are you going to say that over here also by Yom Kippur, that all these halachas that we're learning from the Miluim are ma'akev? V'chitei ma'achinami. And Reish Lakish says, if you're going to say yes, indeed that's the case, that all of the halachas are ma'akev, so then v'hatanan we have a problem from our Mishnah. It says umaskinin lo kohen acher. You prepare a different kohen in case the kohen gadol can't do the avodah on Yom Kippur. You have another kohen to substitute to take over. Problem is like this: v'lo katani mafrishin. It doesn't say that that second kohen needs to do a separation of 7 days. In other words, Reish Lakish is asking Rabbi Yochanan, if you're learning from the Miluim, and this separation of the 7 days is ma'akev, it's something that must be done, and otherwise the avodah is not good, so that second kohen who's there in case the first kohen can't serve, that second kohen should also have to do a hafrasha of 7 days. But it doesn't say that. It says maskinin. V'chitema my maskinin mafrishin. Now maybe you'll try to answer that the word maskinin really means mafrishin. We do separate the second kohen. That's not good either. Listening oidi vidi maskinin, oidi vidi mafrishin, then you should use the same language. Either both times use the word maskinin, or both times use the word mafrishin, but you don't do that. By the first kohen, by the kohen gadol himself, you say mafrishin, and by the second kohen, the replacement, you say maskinin, so it's clear that we're not separating him for 7 days. So Rabbi Yochanan says back to Reish Lakish, Amar Lei says to him, Elamar mehecha yalifla. Okay, but according to the master, according to Reish Lakish, where do you learn the 7-day separation from for the kohen gadol Yom Kippur? So Amar, so he said, Mi Sinai, we learn it out from Sinai. Because the pasuk says, Vayishkon kvod Hashem al Har Sinai. It says that the glory of Hashem rested in Har Sinai. Vayechaseyu onon sheishes yomim. For 6 days the clouds covered it. Vayikra el Moshe bayom hashvi. And then it says on the 7th day Moshe was called. So Michdi ksiv Vayikra el Moshe bayom hashvi. Let us see. The pasuk already says that on the 7th day Moshe was called. Mai sheishes yomim. What do you need to tell us? 6 days. Obviously, it was 6 days if it took till the 7th day for Moshe Rabbeinu to be called. So Zeh Bona'av Shekol Hanichnas B'Machane Shechina. This case of Har Sinai is telling us a rule that anytime you enter Machane Shechina, this area of Har Sinai is considered like a Machane Shechina. Ton Prisha Shisha. You're going to need to separate for 6 days, and that's the same thing over here. When the Kohen Gadol is getting ready to go into the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur, needs a separation of 7 days. Now the problem is, here it was 6 days, and we have 7 days. So the Gemara asks, V'anon Shivatanan. But by our Mishnah on Yom Kippur, it talks about 7 days. So the Gemara answers, Masnisin Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So our Mishnah follows Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira to Chayesh because he has the following concern. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Dalid Amud Aleph.